to another edition of Border Report Live. My name is Sandra Sanchez. I'm coming to you from Harlingen, Texas, deep on the South Texas border. Rudy Mireles has the day off, and in a little while, we'll be talking with my colleague Julian Resendez in West Texas in El Paso. He'll be talking to the head of the Hope Border Institute, where they're working with Catholic organizations to try to help families that are affected by ICE raids there. But first, some headlines to Minnesota, where outrage is happening after the 5-year-old boy was detained, along with his father, outside their Minneapolis home by ICE agents. The 5-year-old boy and his father are now at a detention center in Texas, about 1,200 miles away from their home. While the family says the man and his son are seeking asylum and in the United States legally to be here, the vice president and ICE disagree. Reporter John Finoglio has the latest on their arrest.
This is 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos standing in his driveway with a federal agent during an ICE operation targeting his father in Minneapolis. According to Columbia Heights Public Schools, federal agents took Liam and his father into custody as they returned from school on Tuesday. Wearing a blue bunny hat and a Spider-Man backpack, you can see a federal officer escorting the boy to an unmarked SUV. School officials accuse agents of using the child as bait. A family attorney says they came to the U.S. in 2024, have an active asylum case, and had not been ordered to leave the country.
They did everything right when they came in. They used the app, they made an appointment, they came to the border and presented themselves to Customs and Border Patrol. They've shared all of their information with the government, and they were following the process.
DHS pushing back, saying ICE did not target, arrest a child, or use a child as bait, and that agents were there to arrest the boy's father, Adrian Conejo Arias, who's in the U.S. illegally from Ecuador, claiming the father fled on foot, abandoning his child, and that one of our ICE officers remained with the child after his mother refused to accept custody.
What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America?
Vice President J.D. Vance in Minneapolis, defending the federal immigration crackdown.
This is not a group that's going around and looking for people who violated the law based on skin color. They're looking for people who violated the actual law.
This as clashes between federal agents and the public intensifies. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino says they're not leaving anytime soon.
Peace is not spraying irritants and chemicals at peaceful protesters. It's not detaining a 5-year-old. It's not dragging a pregnant woman through the streets. You achieve peace by working directly with communities. You lower crime by strategically going after people that have committed it.
And that was reporter John Finoglio on the arrest. A vast network of labor unions, progressive organizations, and clergy are asking Minnesotans to stay away from work, school, and stores in protest of immigration enforcement operations in the state today. Organizers say more than 700 businesses statewide have closed. And a day after Border Patrol Commander-at-Large Greg Bovino was seen in Minneapolis streets where he was caught on video throwing a gas container at protesters, he called out local police for not helping federal agents deal with those protesters. Minneapolis police say while they received numerous 911 calls about the protests, they had no record of a request from federal agents for help. While much attention has been given to the child that was held with his father, Bovino blamed the news media for his view, in his view, quote, insufficient coverage of children who have lost parents to violence by people in the country illegally.
So operations continue unabated here in Minneapolis. Several illegal alien criminals taken off the streets yet again over the past 24 hours. So as we continue this mission here in Minneapolis, we will continue to take these bad people, bad things off the streets, despite the DSP, the double standard phenomena, despite the false narrative reporting by many news media outlets.
When asked when Operation Metro Surge will end in Minneapolis, Bovino said, quote, "The mission's ongoing until there's no more of those criminal illegal aliens roaming the streets of Minneapolis." That's his words. Homeland Security says so far more than 3,300 people have been arrested during the crackdown in that state. Now on to an Emerson poll, which was recently released. A new Emerson College polling national survey found 57% of voters think ICE's presence in communities has been more harmful than beneficial. 38% think it has been beneficial than harmful. And 5% thinks it has had no impact, as you can see right there on the screen. A majority of Hispanic voters, 55%, think ICE's presence in communities has been harmful, along with 82% of black voters who feel that way. 51% of voters have that, white voters have that view. That's according to Spencer Kimball, Executive Director of Emerson College Polling. 46% of voters disapprove with the Trump administration's actions in Venezuela, while 39% approve of those actions as well. A majority of voters, 56%, think the country is on the wrong track, while 44% think it is headed in the right direction. The Emerson College Polling Survey was conducted last week and sampled by 1,000 voters across the country. It has a margin of error of 3%. Now I'm going to bring in our El Paso correspondent, my colleague Julian Resendez, out there in West Texas. Hi, Julian.
Sandra, good to be back.
Thanks for being here. He's going to speak with Jesus de la Torre, Assistant Director for Global Migration at Hope Border Institute out there. Mr. de la Torre, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And Julian has recently written about how your organization is helping work with the Catholic dioceses and organizations to help families that are impacted by ICE raids, right? What are you all doing?
Correct. And thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Julian, again. For us as Catholics, this is a gospel issue. We are talking about the dignity of families. We are talking about how people are being treated. And unfortunately, we are seeing families being separated. We're seeing people not getting the care they need in detention, and we are seeing kids in fear. And so what we're trying to do in El Paso is a couple of things. We're trying to support families to connect with their loved ones in detention, to try to locate them. Sometimes they don't even know where they are, to try to talk to them, to help them find pro bono attorneys or people who can help them get the legal access, the legal counsel that they need. And eventually, we're also supporting families through prayer, organizing prayer sessions with our community and advocating for the dignity of people in detention and both who are separated and who are outside of detention as well.
Well, Sandra, I think today we are doing a good job of presenting both sides of the immigration issue. We just heard from officials out there in Minneapolis. Now, the other side of the coin is the effect on the migrants. And in this case, we're not just talking about the migrant communities per se. We're talking in general about the Catholic community in the United States, which is heavily Hispanic, and it's also to some degree immigrant. A lot of members of Catholic congregations all across the country are either Hispanic or straight up immigrants from all over the world. And that has to do with the campaign that Hope Border is bringing to public light this week. Although I understand the campaign began a few weeks ago, perhaps in December. Jesus, I wanted to ask you specifically, this campaign, you already stated the principles that guide Hope Border Institute's involvement in the community. Can you talk specifically about this campaign, which is called Catholic Impact, with double M's for immigration?
Correct. Yes, thank you so much, Julian. With Catholic Impact is our new collaboration with the Center for Migration Studies of New York. And we're trying to do a couple of simple things. We are trying to encourage and train diocesan leaders, including bishops, to respond to this issue and the drama of the attack on human dignity that we are seeing, especially against migrants, but not only migrants, also citizens, people of color, and other people who are being affected by this campaign. We are trying to empower them with supporting, organizing their communities, organizing their dioceses, organizing prayer events and public witness events, advocating and talking to people and understanding what their needs are and bringing their voices to elected officials and decision makers so they can hear directly from people what is happening to them, and eventually also with rapid response with places and raids as we have seen in multiple locations in the country so far.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the rapid response because dioceses like El Paso, here where we are, they're very active. They've always been very active, very vocal, and the dioceses in the big cities as well. I mean, I remember the response in Chicago, for instance. However, the raids are hitting communities all over the country, and I understand that there might be some smaller dioceses that don't have the resources or the experience that we on the border or people or the church in big cities has with the immigrant issue. So this program, this Catholic Impact, I understand consists of a response that includes making available community organizers from hubs, perhaps like El Paso, perhaps like Chicago, to this smaller diocese. What are those community organizers going to do? And also, I understand that you're making available communication specialists, so the communication specialists can help the smaller dioceses or the parishes be more eloquent in why they are stepping up to defend their congregation. Can you tell us about that?
Correct. Yeah, and I want to clarify that we haven't been involved in any of these rapid response efforts yet. But the idea is that we can bring our expertise, our colleagues, those community organizers that you mentioned, our communication experts to support dioceses in how to respond when these things happen, when they see an increasing tension in the community, when they see families being separated, when they see that people cannot go to mass because they are in fear. How can you respond to that? And we have seen it in multiple dioceses so far, and multiple bishops showing and shining an example. They have shown support to the migrants. They have called to peace, something that Pope Leo has again and again called us. We need peace, and we need peace in our communities. They have also supported people through different events like masses and prayer vigils and creating funds to support legal assistance. And eventually they have also advocated for people in these situations. So it's basically helping the diocese and the bishops find the resources they need, provide them with the expertise that we have, the support that we can provide to them, and eventually help them strengthen their response to the current situation so we can be prophetic, we can bring peace, and eventually we can find a new way forward.
Yes, speaking of the response, what is the recommendation about the response? What should the response be?
Well, for us, it's very clear. We need to call to a de-escalation. We need to call to peace. We need to call to the fact that migrants' dignity has to be respected in every policy and every action. It's very important that we keep reminding ourselves that migrants have dignity as anyone else, and therefore their rights and their lives have to be protected and have to be respected. So that's the main principle right now. That's the main fundamental issue that we need to do. And eventually, we need to accompany people in these spiritual wounds sometimes when they cannot go to mass, when they cannot get to their community. People are severely impacted, especially children and other people. And so accompany them in those wounds and help them find the relief that they need. And eventually we know that the law needs to change. And that's the main issue. The law hasn't been updated for too long. And we need to seek change in that realm as well.
Mr. De La Torre, we're talking to you, the head of the Hope Border Institute. You mentioned Pope Leo. I want to come back to that. Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Border Report Live will be right back. Welcome back to Border Report Live. I'm Sandra Sanchez. Speaking with Julian Resendez, our correspondent in El Paso, and we're talking with Jesus de la Torre. He is the Assistant Director for Global Migration at Hope Border Institute in El Paso. Mr. de la Torre, you mentioned Pope Leo. I wanted to ask you, a couple months ago, your organization, as well as Bishop Signs, actually presented a letter to Pope Leo talking about migration and immigration. And can you tell us what was in that letter, and how has that impacted the actions that you're taking today?
Yeah, absolutely. The letter compiled the letters of more than 100 people, hundreds of migrants across the country, migrants from different parts like LA, North Carolina, El Paso, and other parts. And we basically asked migrants, what were they feeling and what would they like us to do? And their responses were very clear. Many people were in fear, many people were suffering, but many people remain in hope that we could do something differently, that we could get immigration reform passed, that we could get some dignified treatment to their relatives and to themselves. And they asked Pope Leo for his prayers and for his support. And that's why we brought those letters to Pope Leo. And Pope Leo, he listened to those stories, he listened to the voices, he read the letter in a video format that we presented to him. And he was very clear that the church cannot remain silent in this moment, that the church has to be prophetic in defending human dignity of migrants and of all those who are vulnerable and all those who are fleeing persecution or are fleeing situations of danger or they are seeking better opportunities.
Jesus, your organization does work, like myself, on both sides of the border. I wanted to ask you, what is the current situation with migrants on either side of our border here in the Southwest?
What we see right now on the Mexican side of the border is people who are still in need of protection. They are waiting in Mexico, most of them. They are trying to get documentation in Mexico with a lot of challenges because things are not working properly in many of the institutions that are supposed to give them the documentation over there. We also see families who are trying to find jobs, who are trying to secure housing, who are trying to take their kids to school. So they are struggling. Many families are struggling. Some people are being victims of kidnapping and other forms of violence. So they are not safe, and that must be very clear. Many people are not safe where they are right now in Mexico, and they are still in need of protection. And on the US side, I think all of us, we know it very well. It's the same feeling of fear. It's the same feeling that you can be separated from your kids from one day to another, that going to work can mean your last day in the United States in some cases.
Yes, on last Friday, the county judge in El Paso was talking about this fear not only applying to migrants, to undocumented migrants, but also to legal migrants, people who have, quote, their papers, and as well as some U.S. citizens who are being approached and asked for their papers whenever ICE goes to do a raid in a place where they have received information there might be immigrants.
Yeah, and I think this is a story that unfortunately is too well known at the border. The issue of racial profiling, the border, if you remember, if our listeners and viewers know, protections against racial profiling started at the border, precisely because citizens and other migrants with legal status and other people were being profiled and detained. And so this is an issue that we've long suffered at the border. And regardless of whether you have a status or not, you can be targeted, and that's a huge problem as well. Especially if we consider that many people are also losing their legal status because the administration is canceling or not renewing TPS, temporary protected status, or even parole, which means people who legally access the country through a port of entry are losing their status and they could be deported, even sometimes to third countries.
Yes, going back to Pope Leo and the meeting with the Hope Border Institute officials, what is the Pope specifically asking Catholics in the United States to do in connection with this ongoing immigration crisis?
The Pope has been very clear. He's been very clear in multiple occasions, not just in our meeting. He said it publicly as well. He supported the bishops' statement, the United States bishops. They issued a strong statement against mass deportations and calling for the respect of the dignity of migrants, and for sure also to support new laws. So the Pope has really spoken in favor of the dignity of migrants in balancing this right of managing border, but at the same time seeing the needs of the most vulnerable and ensuring that our laws are centered in those needs, in the needs of the people who need protection and who eventually have lived in the US for a very long time, contributed to the society for a very long time, and now they see how they can be taken apart and sent to countries that sometimes they don't even know. So he's been very clear, he's been very prophetic, and we are sure that he's going to continue to denounce the abuses and also calling for reconciliation and just laws.
Jesus, where can Catholics learn more information about the Catholic Impact Campaign? Sandra, I believe we have a graphic. If we can show it, please.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
And in the meantime, if people want to connect, we're very excited to work with anyone with Catholics, especially. But we are also engaging with other actors, interfaith people, and people from different sectors. So people can reach out and ask questions. They can go to our webpage, hopeborder.org, and they can find also the email where they can contact us for Catholic Impact. And as we said, this is a national project with the Center for Migration Studies, and we hope to keep supporting diocese bishops, Catholics, and people of faith in putting their faith into action and taking care of the stranger.
Jesus de la Torre with Hope Border Institute. Again, it's hopeborder.org for more information. You can also read about it on borderreport.com. Julian, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Mr. de la Torre. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. Border Report Live will be right back. Welcome back. Before we let you go, we want to tell you about a border tent that is gone. All along the U.S.-Mexico border, volunteers have helped migrants as they make their way into this country. Well, a tent that was used as an aid station to help migrants in Southern California was destroyed by recent storms. As our Salvador Rivera tells us, the tent provided food, water, and basic first aid material for migrants along the Tijuana-San Diego border.
For years, volunteers working out of these tents provided coffee, snacks, water, even basic medical care to thousands of asylum seekers in the San Diego-Tijuana area between two border barriers. Even a phone charging station was made available to the migrants, but it's all gone.
I would describe it as just being an end of an era.
Pedro Rios is with the American French Service Committee, which operated the tents and coordinated the volunteers. The canopies, along with these bottles of sanitizer and other items, are now in a dumpster.
It's a little eerie coming back to this location where volunteers provided so much water and food and met the needs of people that were crossing into the U.S.
The tent was destroyed by a recent storm. Federal contractors came by and took what was left over, placing those items in the dumpster.
It's a little bit of a sad story to see how the items that we use to support and help people are just dumped into the dumpster. It doesn't mean that what we did here has disappeared. We have our history, our memories. It's my conclusion that the volunteers here saved the lives of people that were in extremely hazardous and desperate situations.
Rios says over time, they helped thousands of migrants from all over the world.
Very few Mexicans arrived here, but there were people from South America, from Central America, from the Caribbean, from African countries, from Eastern European bloc countries, from Asian countries. This was one of at least 13 different sites along the San Diego-Tijuana corridor where Border Patrol agents were forcing people to remain for hours and in some cases days. There were instances here where I remember people from Afghanistan, men were forced to wait for 7 days. We recognize that had we not been here and provided that aid, people likely would have died. It was overwhelming at times. I believe that we did our best.
Rios says if the need arises, they will be back. Salvador Rivera, Border Report.
And you can read all of Salvador's stories as well as stories from myself and Julian on borderreport.com. Now, before we let you go, we're going to tell you that Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum is scheduled to visit northern Mexico this weekend. She's supposed to visit the border town of Reynosa in the state of Tamaulipas on Saturday. That's just across from McAllen, and she will take part in a program for women. She's also scheduled to go to Nuevo Leon on Sunday, but we're getting weather, so we'll keep you updated. We'll see if she does that. From Border Report Live, I'm Sandra Sanchez. Take care.